Hey everyone, I'm Ray, and this is how I learned to love the end. I wrote this talk because I have trouble accepting endings. But before we get there, let's get started. My full name is Rachel Xiang, and I was born in Arkansas. When I'm pretty young, I moved to Michigan. And as a kid, I remember not loving my last name partially because it's very near the end of the line alphabetically. And as a kid, I have like zero patience. I am so impatient that at 19, I leave school, find a job, and move to San Francisco, where I find out that summer is pretty chilly. But it is where all of these big tech companies are, and the fog does get beautiful. But couple of years pass and I can't help but think, I don't think this is for me. I try to turn to some creative hobbies. I even draw and animate for the first time. This is what I make. Little dude. And it was fun, but I'm not like blown away. I don't know if I am good enough at drawing to animate, to be an animator, but that's fine. I turned to other creative outlets. And I learned I love 3D. I love sculpture. I love bamboo weaving, cameras, lighting, all fun and games until the pandemic keeps me in my room. And I have can't, it gets messy, okay? A housemate recommends Blender. I try it, and something clicks. Around this time, someone tells me about this quote. Um, Basically, when you get started doing anything creative, your taste is gonna kind of like outpace what you can make. And that's normal. Remember, that's why you got started. And you just have to keep putting in the work. So I take this to heart, this Glass quote, and I just keep creating, try to make it fun, keep making over the pandemic. But like all things, the pandemic comes to an end. And the car ride home from the vaccine, so does my relationship. And it's totally what everyone else is going through. So I make some new friends and I feel inspired. These characters pop into my head, representing these new bonds. And I feel for the first time like I'm creating something really inspired by the life I'm living. I'm no longer kind of looking through tutorials, and it feels really cool. Um, I start to animate a little bit, and I play around with sound design. But like all creative children, um, these two start asking me hard questions like, girl, where's the money? You quit your job. And have you checked out Twitter? This is Twitter in 2022. So if you were there, maybe you've heard this three-letter acronym. But the point I want to make is that it's it's online in this community that I meet people who expand my view of animation. They're art directors, they work at studios, they tell me what it's like to work as a team on a creative project. One of them even starts her own studio, which I think is super cool. And she tells me about a storyboarding class. It's 6 weeks online. I really excited to try this. So this is what I make.
That's my.
It's a true story, inspired by my sister, who is a triathlete and has a very big heart. So I make this short. Um, and at this point, it's been a year. And I'm starting to feel not as inspired. I want to try something else, maybe. Maybe a little burnt out before I can decide to do this. This happens. Twitter changes into X, and I don't feel good about being in this space anymore. I leave, I end the series, and I feel kind of lost. These two characters were like the lens I used to look at the world when I would visit friends in different cities. One of them was like, "Oh, can't wait to be in a camper because, if we hang out, it might happen." So I try to fill this empty hole in my heart with trends and tutorials I see on social media, but nothing sticks. And I I don't know what to do next. Um, I try to plan. I applied to Hyper Island. I want to work at a studio. I want to find some clients, and a dream client, like beyond my wildest dreams, reaches out at this moment. I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. We know where we're going. But things don't go to plan. Um, a suicide happens. Uh, Things don't make sense in the world. The economy flips, and no one's hiring. Also, my dream client, they say, hey, we have to postpone indefinitely. So finally, I have to ask, what do I do when I can't go back? And there's really nothing to move forward into. I find out I'm pretty angry. Um, why are things like this? Um, why can't I change it? And strangely, I everything I say either sounds fake to me or just really, really mean. And I think, okay, I saw something on TikTok. I think I know what's wrong with me. Am I a narcissist? Google says no. TikTok says maybe this type. Um, and I decided to get off the internet for a bit and do some reading. And I find some things that really help me. There's three concepts. First concept is that your whole life is really spent trying to get to know yourself more. Um, I thought I had messed up because after one career change, I was supposed to like this was supposed to be it. And individuation is basically like, no, your whole life is going to be periods where it just something doesn't feel right. You learn more about yourself. That's that's good. That's what it is. Second concept um, from Ellis Walker is that creative routines are like inviting a friend for tea. Um, what you can do is be ready to host, but you can't force creative ideas to arrive. And this made me feel relief because I had thought that, oh, like, if I just kept putting in work, it was supposed to happen. Both of these brought me to Taoism, which is a huge topic. But what it means to me is that, I have to accept the things that are outside of my control. I can't force other people to act a certain way, for things to be a certain way. Um, and what I can do is just to be honest about what am I capable of in this scenario. Can I do anything? Do I need to wait for a different time? And it's not easy, but it does help me finally accept this is an end. A few months pass, and school begins. I move to Stockholm, and this email comes in like, "Hey, you are you free?" I say yes. Let's do 3 minutes of animation. Keep in mind, I have not touched a keyframe in months, but luckily, school starts off a little gentler. Our first task is to create 3 seconds of animation, day and a half, do anything you want. This is what I make. Um, Afterwards, I realize it's kind of familiar. And it finally hits me what it feels like when people kept saying this to me. And I was like, yeah, sure. But now for me, I realize this means that breaks are really good teachers. Um, Things that I read about and learn over that ending before school start to come in, um, both with what I make uh, uh, animation about and how I do it. So for our next unit at school, we are tasked with creating a short story about our lives. Um, and I'll show you what I make.
There once was a girl who had never drawn anything, but she wanted to be just like her sister. So she grabbed a pencil and she drew and drew and drew until she looked at it and it was so ugly she cried.
哇，这是哪个花的呀？太漂亮了嘞！我好喜欢呐、我把它贴在墙上，我以后可以天天看。
My mom is really clever with the way that she gives encouragement. This is one of the first projects where instead of jumping in to animation, I leave like over half the time to just think and plan. Um, Even though my boards and sketches are really messy, they help me so much. Um, and this is one of the favorite things that I learned in school about the planning process. But even with all the boarding and planning, I learned that 3 minutes is way too much for me to animate on my own. Luckily, I don't have to. So, in our last unit in this course, we learned how to work as a studio. And with these four lovely, talented souls, we create something together.
I was born in San Francisco in 1926. My parents were first generation Japanese American, and we were living in Berkeley. Once a year, my mother would pull out her kori, and it was a big treat to see her wedding kimono and her obis and her other kimonos that she brought over. My mother didn't tell me that she was a weaver until way late. Both my mother and father came from the same area, Ibaraki. They did fine ikat with silk threads. It was later on, after I became a weaver, that she did pull out the sash, and she told me that she actually prepared the silk from the cocoon. She wove the material, and then she tie-dyed it. I still have it. It's one of my treasures. I was about 14 when World War II came on. Rumors started flying around that if you had anything Japanese, that you had to get rid of it. And so I remember my mother breaking Japanese records and even books, I think. We were told that we were going to be relocated and that pack up your belongings. And then when evacuation happened, well, we just left most everything just on the floor of this house and went to the assembly center. My younger sister and I just took advantage of the free time we had there. Chura Obata organized an art school, and we would go to the art school and watch Professor Obata demonstrate. Well, I got my first loom in the fall of 1949. When I was taken to the weaving room at CCAC, I was just captivated by the loom. So with the last $150 I had, I bought a loom. And that's how I got started. Certainly in those days, I was trying to make a living. And so I had to weave functional items, placemats and hand towels. But then studying with Truda Germonpré, she taught us about double weaves. She just really opened my eyes to what weaving could be. I put a small sample on my loom in double weave. And by golly, when I took it off the loom, I saw that I had crossed the layers. And when it came off the loom, I could see that if I chose the right material, it would open out and stay open. And then I tried a piece in nylon monofilament. And by golly, when I cut it off the loom, I had a monofilament hanging. And so that was the beginning of my whole series. I just love to weave.
when we wrap this project, I am sleep deprived and very excited. I'm looking forward to the internship. Talked to this team that I think would be a perfect fit. Let's go. Start of my career. And my body tells me, no, you need to rest. You will not start this internship. You will not be animating for a while. It's not great, but I know better than to force it. Because it feels kind of familiar. Um, and yeah, I do have a feeling it'll be back. But I'm not too worried. Because life tends to bring us back to places that we've been before. Though when we look closely, I think that things are never quite the same. Let's do that today. Here's my name, Xiang Rachel. In Chinese, your last name comes first. And this character, Xiang, the one that I was too impatient for as a kid, well, turns out it has a meaning. Direction. And after all of these years, I think I can finally say I've learned to love it. Thank you so much. That's the end of my talk.